Hello and welcome to the Painted Charge on our maiden video voyage. This week it's going to be a box review for the very first video on here. If you're not interested in ancients or dark ages, well, I'm not an expert on it, but I do play a game called Lion Rampant, and I'm currently almost finished building a late Roman army. More on them in later videos, but I sort of wanted to start looking around for an opponent for my army to fight. So I decided on choosing the Goth warriors as an opponent, quite colourful looking guys, and I've gone for figures by Wargames Atlantic. Reason, you get 30 figures in the box, and they came in at about £25, and I bought it from a local war game shop in Telford. And yeah, it's the 30 figures. I've had a look at I've got a sprue to show you in a bit. I'll show you all the parts on there. Basically what you get on the sprue is just enough stuff to make 30 figures. That could be a mixture of archers, warriors, and I think the weapons that they've got, but they aren't spears as such. They look more like javelins. So these are aimed at, and they're classed within the Lion Rampant rules as warriors, which are lightly armed. None of them have chainmail on, so if you bought these, don't expect to see any heavily armoured command figures or anything like that. They are all wearing just literally a tunic, and they do supply a cloak on the sprue, which I'm not that keen on, so I won't be putting that on, but I'll be showing you some figures that I've made up already shortly. So yeah, that box art by Peter Dennis. I'm going to be definitely using the colour of the guy with the spear and shield as a definite one of the figures. Is going to be looking like that, hopefully. So without further ado, I'm gonna get a sprue out now and show you what's on the sprue. Right, it's sprue time. I have my handy pointer with me. So this is the sprue that you get. You'll get 6 identical sprues to this in the box. As I say, all identical. What you get on here is basically enough to make your 5 warriors on here. There's no extra bits and pieces to put on. It's just weapons, weapon arm and shield, which is a little bit disappointing because I was hoping there was going to be things like a few pouches or stuff. There is one dagger located in the corner here. There is also a cloak down here, which I'm not too keen on. It's a very thick piece of plastic, and these guys are meant to be light warriors. So if you're running around the field with a thing like that on, I don't think you're going to get very far. It's yeah, probably more suited to the Antarctic than where these guys would have been fighting. But you can make up from this sprue. You can make up a slinger. There is a slinger arm in here with a sling there, so you can make up to 6 of those in the box. There are 3 archers there. I particularly like the one there. I think you can see that the bow is actually in the position of being drawn back, ready to shoot an arrow. So that's quite nice, nice little touch. But basically, these are all javelins. So I'm not keen on everyone having javelins. I understand if we're going to have a light infantryman who's just going to have a handful of javelins and he's going to be throwing one. But for the warriors, I think I'm going to arm those with arms from my spare box from other sprues I've got from Gripping Beast and what have you. So yeah, because I don't want them all having javelins. I do want some with spears. These are going to be making up the 2 core units of warriors for my Goth army. So I don't want everyone with javelins. The heads, there's a good selection of heads. Some have got helmets on. One is sort of, I think, has been designed so he can be turned into sort of like a chieftain. You've got an arm down here with the horn on it. So yeah, you can make a musician. There's also one you can make a dragon standard. I think that you'll have to supply your own piece of rod for the standard. There doesn't appear to be one that's suitable. So you could either use a spear and stick the dragon fanion on the top of that, or a piece of brass wire would probably suffice to be a bit more sturdy. Overall, the mouldings are very good. They're very sharp, lots of nice sharp detail, really nice expressions on the faces. Like I say, the only thing I'm a little bit disappointed with is one, the shields. The bosses are a bit plain Jane, to be honest. Usually you see bosses from this period and they've got like a large rivet on the front, or a large point on the front or something like that. And on the backs of the shields, it's just plain flat plastic with a hole for you to glue onto the hand. So there's no, you may want to etch some detail into the back of the shields, or have, if you've got spare shields from other kits, then add those to it. So yeah, the mould lines are a bare minimum. They're easy to clean up. I have made 4 of them, which you'll be seeing shortly. So yeah, this basically is frame. The other thing I didn't like was for the skirmishers, you have to put a left hand arm on them. The sling arm goes on the right of the figure, and you're a bit wanting for a left arm to go on. You've got to use something from the archery. There's very few arms, then they're in some really awkward positions. The same goes for the arms for the warriors. They have got a flattened top side to the arm so that you can glue the arm on, glue the shield to the arm. I found this a bit awkward, and I did try one and it fell off. There's not much for it to grip onto, so I ended up pinning the shield to the figures that I've done with a little bit of florist's wire and a twist drill, and drilling into the centre of the back of the boss, and then drilling into the hand and inserting a small bit of wire and gluing that and pinning it together. So it'll save you when you're on your battlefield having bits of shield and dropping off here, there and everywhere. Other than that, you've got 3 swords here. Those will do for the warriors. Again, there's 5 figures on the sprue. They've only given 5 swords. I mean, there are axes on here, so you could get around it that way. But again, I think there could have been a little bit more on here. Like I say, you've just got the one single dagger, so you'll get 6 of these altogether, as there are six of these frames. But I still think it's compared to people like Victrix, who put a lot of stuff on their frames. But saying that, you're probably paying the Victrix in price is a bit higher than what these are. So for 25 quid, this is what you're gonna get. But you can make an as the beginnings of an army from it. It's a good starting point, and as far as I can see, for if you're doing a Goth army. You can add to these figures by using either footsore miniatures. They do Goths. I think the metal castings. You could look at Wargames Foundry, and I think Gripping Beast may do some metal ones in their range, but I'm not 100% on that at the moment. But you could actually substitute with some of their plastic Anglo-Saxons for Goth warriors as well, and mix them in with these. I'm going to show you some of the figures next, but I can tell you, I do know that these do go side by side with the Griffin Beast figures very well. Okay, so that's the plastic frame, and we'll go on to show you some that I've put together next. Right, and finally onto the 4 figures that I've put together from the box. Well, not quite. We'll start off with this chap. He's your bog standard Goth warrior, armed with it is a javelin that he's armed with, which I'm not that happy about, but there we go. And he's got an arm, his arm there is ready to receive a shield. Now the nice thing about the shield arms on these figures are that they are levelled off flat, so you to receive the shield line on it. The only slight problem is I did glue one on with some Tamiya light liquid glue, and it literally dropped straight off, even though I'd left it to set. So what I've resorted to with the two other figures on here is actually pinning the shield on using a small piece of florist wire drilled into the arm and drilled into the centre of the shield, so the pin will go back into where the boss is, so you don't want a piece of wire jutting out of your shield at an odd angle. So yeah, basic warrior, nicely done. As I mentioned in the sprue part, he hasn't got much on his belt. He hasn't got a sidearm like a dagger. There's only one on the frame. So again, I'm going to be searching around in my bits box from my Greeks and some of the other guys, and I'm going to use some of the daggers that are in sheaths on there to use it. I think they'll look fine for this, for my purpose. And using green stuff, I might even add a pouch or something like that to hang on his belt. So yeah, their face on the figures is they're really beautifully sculpted, the faces. There's lots of character in the faces, I'll give them that. They've really gone to town on that. They're cracking little figures. So I'll move on to this one here. He's going to come round now. The arm that's on him is from the late Roman armor box from Gripping Beast. The sword arm, I wanted something different for one of my command. He's going to be like one of the chieftains leading his little war band. So it just proves the Gripping Beast stuff will fit really well with these figures. As you can see, I've put a horsehair mane affixed to his helmet, and he will be getting a sheath for his sword glued to him eventually as well. So yeah, I really like that figure. I'm looking forward to painting that figure. And to say, I've just popped the shield on there. It's not glued on, but the pin is actually holding that on at the moment. The same for which I can't say for the other figure, which I've glued on. So I should be able to paint that all right. The last figure I'm going to look at is this one here, the Slinger. Now, out of all the figures, and I'm not really impressed with this. I like the pose of the actual sling above his head, but when it comes to putting a left arm on, you've not left with many choices. It's mainly the archer's arms that you've got, so you're going to have to do perhaps a little bit of bending around, or again, if you've got figures from a similar period, hitting the bits box, the spare parts box, and adding something to that. So I'm only going to be doing 6 of these guys, so I have got some other arms that I'm going to incorporate with these. And again, I may add some details like daggers to them and other such things. The same this guy, I'm going to add a cloak to this guy to make him look like the guy on the front of the box. So overall, I would say these figures are good value for money. There are other figures available, I believe, from Gripping Beast. I think Wargames Foundry do some figures for it, and Footsaw Miniatures also produce some metal Goths. If you want chainmail armed Goths, they do them as well. So and they do mounted Goths as well. But for value, and the whole idea of doing this project with the two late Romans and the Goths is to dip my toe into a period that I've never done before. And it's a nice cheap way of doing it. The armies are made up mostly of about 5 to 6 units per army, and the figures for each unit number at 12 for foot, 6 for mounted, and 6 individual figures for your skirmish ones. And archers, you can do them in 6s or 12s. All the figures are singularly based. And I think it's a good way of dipping your toe into a new period. There's lots of armies in the list to choose from going right back to the beginning of the Dark Ages, end of the Roman occupation, right through to
almost to the Renaissance wars, almost. It's touching on War of the Roses. So yeah, they're well worth a look at. The Osprey rules by Daniel Mersey. This is the second edition of Lion Rampant, so that is worth a look at as well if you've not already got it. So yeah, that's the Goths, and I will be doing a video in the future when I've got these. When I start painting these will be painted up, and I'll show them to you when they're done and what they look like. And they say there'll be some updates on my late Romans, which are almost at a conclusion, so there'll be a little video on those when they're done. Okay, so if you like what you see and you've lasted this long, this is my first video, so forgive any stuttering and stammering that you might, but yeah, this is my first video for this channel, so I hope you liked it. And if you do like it, and you're obviously a wargamer if you're watching it, or either been in it for a long time or you're a new wargamer, I would appreciate if you would subscribe and like if you did like it, and hopefully I'll see you soon on the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.